How's it, guys? Welcome to the podcast. As always, great to have you here. I'm super excited for this episode today. Today we are tackling the subject of EMF exposure and this exponential increase in electrical pollution that's ongoing in our society. You wouldn't be considered crazy to be wondering, is this stuff potentially harmful to us? That's something that I've been worried about for a long time, since the beginning of lockdown, especially with the new 5G technology that's rolling out. And, there's people that laugh at the concerns about it, but I urge you to have a look at this podcast or give it a listen. What I did was I watched a 2.5-hour webinar on this topic of protecting yourself from EMF exposure. Managed to track down the Cape Town geovital consultant who does home assessments, and he can advise us to better protect yourself. I'm going to include some of that at the end of the podcast. For those of you who are interested in seeing what the home assessment is about, I'll include clips from that, and I'll also explain what is going on to some degree. There's been over 20,000 peer-reviewed studies. I think 80 to 90% of them indicate that there is definitely biological effects of the non-ionizing radiation. And this oxidative stress it's an ongoing degenerative process, and it's definitely something to be concerned about. With all the things in the world these days that's trying to kill us, this is just another one that we need to be aware about, especially with this, as I mentioned in the beginning, this mass scale rollout of 5G, which I really believe there is a lot of stuff to be concerned about. It is also definitely a fallacy that we need more evidence to support the concerns. All the evidence is there. We're just not being shown it, unfortunately, as with most things these days. Guys, enjoy the podcast. I'm not going to carry on chatting too long, but give it a listen. Let me know what you think. Please do like and subscribe if you feel like it's been beneficial, or if you're enjoying the content. Appreciate it, guys. Much love. Chat to you next week. Peter, thanks for taking the time to come out today and do this. We just did the house assessment for the EMF exposure. Just to kick this off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background in this field of work?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a technocrat by nature. I've got a Master of Science in Computer Science, and I've been in the IT industry probably most of my life. I got into the EMFs probably 10 years ago. My wife was diagnosed with cancer, and she's got a doctorate in microbiology, so she's a researcher. And I think one thing she's found that there wasn't adequate support for her condition. And she started doing a whole lot of research into alternate medicine, into what else you can do. And one thing that she kept on coming up against, or kept popping up, was EMFs. So she handed it over to me. I had a look at it, and any normal engineer, I said, no, this is all nonsense, because the standards are there, the protection's there, etc., etc. But then I had to do it justice, and I started digging around a little bit, and I think the term is going down the rabbit hole, which I'm still down in there. But I think what really came out of that, it raised a serious concern in my mind in terms of the safety of the radiation levels, in terms of what we're exposed to. And I said that was 10 years ago. Technology's even moved on from then. Yeah. So I got myself a couple of meters. I started testing the house, very much amateur meters initially, did at friends' houses, etc. And we managed to mitigate. And then I started doing some courses. I did some online courses with EMF experts in the US, which is an excellent. It's not an online course, but it's driven online, but it's a face-to-face course. And then 2 years ago, I trained as a geovital consultant in Austria to do EMF mitigation. So we've recently being a year and a half ago, opened up a wellness center in just outside of Somerset West, between Somerset West and Stellenbosch, which we're part owners of. And one of the big things I found that every time we had patients with chronic illnesses and serious physical health issues came in. They were sitting on their mobile phones. They had the mobile phones against their heads. They were completely oblivious to any issues that this might cause. So I then started talking to them, and it literally evolved into me doing this pretty much full-time together with running the center.
Wow, okay, that's interesting. Like I mentioned to you earlier, me and Tara got into this at the beginning of lockdown, looking at obviously hearing about the 5G now, which is obviously topic of the day. But really delving into that, and then I watched the webinar, which you were involved in, and I managed to track you down to because we've been stressing about this. Obviously, we've got this tower that's right here. And we did the home assessment today, which was amazing, so insightful, took a lot away from that. Just quickly, are you seeing this increase in electrical pollution, call it, this increase in the technology? Are you seeing increase in health effects on people around those areas and people complaining about that, coming to you with health issues?
Yeah, Darryn, so I see it in two folds. First of all, I see a lot more awareness.
Okay.
2 years ago when we did public talks, and there's a couple of people in my sort of field around South Africa, generally you had a few people coming in. They were already aware, and they just wanted to find out a little bit more. Obviously, there's been a lot of speculation and talk about viruses and 5G, and there's been a lot more limelight put into the EMFs.
Yes.
Having said that, I have a lot of reports from clients, from people, friends, that have, especially in the Johannesburg area, where the technology has been rolled out a lot earlier than in Cape Town, reporting strange effects. Sleeplessness, heart palpitations at night, nausea, headaches, funny ringing in the ears, and this is all very, very recent. So it's not something that's been around with the 2G, 3G technology, and not to say that the science doesn't show that those technologies are safe either.
Yeah.
But I think the general concern is that the newer technologies like the 5G are being rolled out untested, and specifically not shown to be safe. Technology itself is great, yes, speeds and all the extra that it will bring to us. In theory is excellent.
Yeah.
But not at the detriment of our health. If it's been shown if it can be shown that it's healthy, great.
Yes. In that webinar that you were involved in, and I took a lot away from, they mentioned the exposure to this and the oxidative stress on the cellular level in the body. There's been something like over 20,000 peer-reviewed studies, but there's not much traction in terms of that being put out there in the media, the detrimental effects of this on the human body. Do you have any comments on that? Like why is the governing bodies that are advocating for the safe use of this technology, first of all, they're kind of biased because they support the industries that need this technology, and then it's very one-sided. We're just told the technology is safe, but there's nobody's from the other side is getting any media coverage, so to speak.
Yeah, so Darryn, there's a couple of things to that. If you look at from an engineering level and the standards perspective, generally the international standards have been set in the mid-90s, and they are basing the foundation on the premise that this technology is non-ionizing. So just to put that into context, ionizing and non-ionizing frequencies, non-ionizing basically are deemed not to heat up your cells. Okay, and ionizing frequency potentially heats up the cells, so it can cause damage. So with that, having said that, the standards are saying non-ionizing, so it's all safe, it's been tested, etc. What the scientists that you alluded to and the tests that have been done has showed that far below the actual standards that have been set, and in non-ionizing type of radiation has a biological effect on the system. So it's not a physical effect, but it's a biological effect.
One thing I wanted to pick your brain on now, there's obviously so much going around 5G coronavirus and all of that stuff, okay? So I for one, don't think 5G causes coronavirus at all, but looking into the damage on a cellular level and the oxidative stress and potentially the hypoxic effects on the body that are being seen, the lack of oxygen in the blood, all of that, can this be caused by this increase in technology? And then is there potential for getting COVID-like symptoms from the oxidative stress placed in your body from the technology? Is there
Yeah, so there are a number of studies that have certainly shown that by exposure to non-ionizing radiation, it causes the oxidative stress. It causes the cells the permeability of the cells to actually start, let's call it leaking.
Yes.
Allowing the intercellular exchange to be malaligned. So it's very well plausible that, by the fact that the cells aren't behaving the way they should be, that viruses and things can interchange. Does 5G, for example, cause coronavirus? Absolutely not. Those are completely separate issues. But having been exposed to any virus, if you have a low immune system and you're exposed to EMFs, you are more likely to have a bigger negative effect.
Yes.
Being able to fight a disease of any sorts.
Okay.
So just by mere fact, and that has been scientifically shown and proven.
Yes. So if you have a low immune system already, and then you're having 5G rolled out, that could be like the cherry on cake that really just throws your immune system down the drain, and then you could potentially react worsely to a virus than if you weren't exposed to this.
Could well be, absolutely.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
And just from the home assessment today, we took a lot away. We sit in this room, right next to you there's a Wi-Fi router. We've been working here every day, and we've been getting headaches and not feeling well, and we automatically attributed to that tower, but we realized that there's a multiple factors with all of this stuff.
Yeah.
What are some things that people can do immediately that can really help them in their home, just protect themselves from that constant exposure? We're so complacent when it comes to putting our phones next to our head, constantly sleeping next to them, the cabling, everything. What are some tips that people can do automatically that will improve their health, improve their health?
Yeah, so just to reduce your exposure, simplest way is if you're using your mobile phone, don't put it against your head. Use it on speakerphone or use a headset. Normal headset is okay. Some people advocate that you actually want to have an air tube where the physical copper wires potentially could transmit some radio signals as well. I have both and I've tested them. They all work fine, but definitely safe. Move that phone away from you. Don't carry it in your pocket if it's on. Put it into flight mode as quickly as possible. If, for example, I use my phone at home connected to the internet via physical Ethernet cable, it's in flight mode, so all my apps, anything that uses data works. So I can do WhatsApp calls, I can do Skype calls, I can browse, I can do my banking, everything in flight mode. So the only thing is you won't get is a cellular GSM call or an SMS, as we know it.
Interesting.
I have a voicemail in there saying, please, if you urgently need to contact me, WhatsApp me.
Yeah.
So that's on the mobile phones. The Wi-Fi router, as you've seen, by default, generally most Wi-Fi routers come with two types of radio. One clocking in at 2.4 gigahertz, the other one at 5 gigahertz. Sure. Not to be confused with 5G, because often you see an SSID with something __5G, and people go, wow, I've got 5G in my house. Not the case. This is just the Wi-Fi technology.
Yeah.
No need to have both radios on, first of all. Unless you're moving huge amount of data in your house, you're doing streaming and gaming between laptops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Generally, your bandwidth is restricted by the incoming internet connection anyway, which is probably a tenth of what you actually have on your Wi-Fi at home.
Yes.
Nonetheless, having said that, and you saw the measurements we did, when we switched off Wi-Fi, the room immediately calmed down, and the readings were 10 times better. So for that, what we did, we connected your laptop with an adapter for Ethernet. Your Apple, some of the new Windows PCs as well, only do not come with an Ethernet port anymore, simply because of the real estate factor. Because the devices are so thin now, so you don't fit the port in. But it's easy, a couple of $100, you can buy yourself a Ethernet adapter. You connect it through to your router. And off you go. Your internet connectivity is there, just like as I mentioned with the phone.
Yes,
the mobile phone.
Interesting, amazing. Just one thing came to mind there. I was thinking with the mobile phones. Another thing that I looked at was the increase in male infertility because of phones in your pocket, not on flight mode. And there was something like a study of 600 people, and there was a direct correlation between the amount of people who had their phones in their pockets and the amount of infertility. Is that?
There have been a lot of studies done on fertilities. Ole Johansson, I think, is one of the leading specialists from Sweden in the Karolinska Institute.
Okay.
He's been studying this for probably 20, 30 odd years. And he has many papers published on that. Okay. But not only him, others as well. So there's definitely seems to be a correlation between mobile technology and infertility.
Wow. We definitely need to just become more aware of this, because we just accept everything as normal. We don't even question these things, but we really do need to become more aware. It's one thing I've taken away from this. Just to delve into the sleeping, from what I've looked at, sleeping is the most important factor, because that's where your body regenerates. That's where if you don't sleep right, everything is out. So if you're exposed to EMF while you're sleeping, your body is not getting obviously the rest that it needs. You can't produce the melatonin and all those things. So from what I understand, sleeping and where you sleep is the most important thing regarding this whole topic. So that's where people need to prioritize, I'm assuming, how they focus on this.
Yeah, Darryn, absolutely. And I think, as you saw, it's not only the high frequency radiation that can cause an issue. Anywhere where you have electrical circuits and potentially bad wiring, you have electric fields, magnetic fields. There's another thing called dirty electricity, we haven't really looked at that. But yeah, so all those will affect your quality of sleep and quality of recovery. So most of these things are relatively simple to remediate. Remediate.
Yeah, we could see as we put the plug off at the wall, all the electrics off, immediate reading change.
Drop down. And that's essentially where you want to get down to.
Yes.
Your readings want to be as low as possible in all the different disciplines.
Yes.
And I mean, I've seen with clients of mine where we've switched it off. The first night they slept, they just woke up the next day, and I had the phone call and I said, you have no idea about the good quality of sleep that I've had. And that was just a couple of simple rearrangements. Important to measure it, because it could be just switching it off and the plug, but then you might have some circuits running inside the wall that cause it. So you might have to move the bed around a little bit, or just move it away from the wall. So there's little tips and tricks like that.
So it's definitely valuable to get a home assessment or something like that you do, and actually get your home assessed, get every area looked at, and besides the high frequency radiation, obviously the magnetic and the electrical low frequency, there's multiple obviously facets to this. Interesting. I know you got to get going, Peter. Just to end off quickly on, we were chatting before this, and you mentioned the wavelengths and frequencies from, can you quickly explain 2G, 3G, 4G, and the concerns and the worry around 5G now, and what you've seen with that? Because I know 5G is a hot topic. So what is your opinion on the 5G, and can you explain the differences in the technology quickly?
So without getting too technical, basically if you look at 2G, 3G, 4G technologies, and to a level of 5G technology, they currently, the way they're operating, they're still running in a relatively low frequency range, so underneath 3.8 gigahertz. However, the 5G technology, as it's specified, will start using in a near future what they call millimeter waves, which is basically moving us into uncharted territories. A lot of these technologies have been used in the military before. Again, there are reports of people having ill effects thereof. There's a couple of scientific studies showing oxidative stresses and basically oxygen molecules being affected at around about 60 gigahertz.
Yes.
So there's a whole lot of things that are on the table that we actually don't know about in terms of what the health effects are going to be.
No problem.
And as I mentioned earlier, I think generally the public is starting to become aware, and it's demanding from the industry to say, well, show us that this is safe, but not just saying it's safe by a non-ionizing frequency. There needs to be independent studies made that can be verified, that can be retested. And on both sides, to be very honest, there's not enough evidence to show it's harmful and it's not harmful.
Yes.
However, if we take the interpolation from the previous technologies where they've shown that there are health effects at sort of radiation level far below the standard set, we can only assume that this could have the same if not worse effect, because we're now moving into uncharted territory, and we're just laying additional frequencies and exposing our bodies to it, which
100%
could potentially be harmful.
And it seems to be, like you mentioned, not just 5G being one frequency, it's a massive range. So we're starting off at the lower end, but we don't know the effects of, if they push that what's up to 90 gigahertz or something, it could be disastrous. And besides the human health, looking into environmental impacts on the bees and all these, it's catastrophic when you see how it's affecting the environment. All this electrical pollution, it's not just 5G, it goes back, but it's getting incrementally or exponentially worse.
Absolutely.
So I know there's a lot of movements to stop the rollout of 5G, stop this continuous increase in technology without the safe studies done. Do you think there's, for those who are worried and want to make a difference, do you think we can make a difference? And what is the outlook looking like?
I think we can all make a difference. First of all, I think educate yourself. Don't take my word for it. There's a little plethora of research out there. Don't take the word of the industry. Don't take the word of the, let's call it, activists. Do your own research. Have a look at it. Also, having said that, you mentioned the environmental effects. There are serious issues. The fact that basically the planet is going to be blanketed with satellites using this kind of technology. That's a whole different discussion, whole different story. We can all play our part. If you strongly believe that this is something that you don't want, don't buy a 5G phone. It's very simple. Stop using the technology. It's the same as smoking. I'll stop smoking because I know it's detrimental to my health. The more people stop smoking, the less cigarettes will buy, the less the industry is supported. Okay. So, there are simple ways in that. Burning down towers, in my opinion, is not the way to go. It's a very, very extreme way of looking at it, and it's not going to address the problem. What we really need is studies on both ends. They need an open debate, and we need the standards potentially revisited and relooked. Yes,
I know in some countries, I mentioned earlier, we chatted, they have stopped the rollout to do the adequate studies.
Correct.
I know they're pushing in these groups pushing for that, just to stop the rollout without the tests. Do you think that'll happen in South Africa or not?
I think it's early to tell. I mean, at the moment we see the stuff being rolled out. The challenge is that once it's there, it's too late. So I think one can try. I know in with the previous technologies, there've been a lot of communities that objected to masts going up. Without consent, without actually having an opinion voiced. So there should be processes in there to be put, and the community should really have the ultimate choice. Sure. Do we want this technology or don't we want the technology?
Sure.
And ideal would be to create quiet spots.
100%. Cool. Also, Peter, where can people find you if they want to get involved in your work or get a home assessment, all that stuff? How can they reach out to you?
So my company is called EMFree, emfree.co.za, and all the details are there. You can drop me an email. I operate in the Western Cape, obviously. I do tend to go up to Gauteng regularly prior to lockdown, which is a little bit more tricky these days. But happy to help, happy to advise.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And definitely feel a lot more educated on the topic. So
great.
Appreciate it. Thanks,
Darryn.
Awesome. That was amazing. Awesome. How's it, guys? Welcome to this portion of the quick summary of our home assessment. As you can see, it's quite complicated, a lot of different equipment, high-tech equipment, and very individualized to the specific corner of your home. So this is just what happened in our home, some of the stuff to give you an idea. As I mentioned, it's very individualized.
What is it on the readings? It basically gives me a max value. So you want the peak value that is actually being captured because of the pulsing. Okay.
It just went up to 7,000 for me here.
Yeah. I tend to work on my battery mode. Okay. So if you literally unplug your laptop, if you can just move that out and just get that down. He's already moved down now. You've got the other laptop there. Okay, but now remember this cable Is that the only plug?
Yeah, that's it.
As you can see, this is very sensitive high-tech equipment.
Okay, so we already dropped him.
Yo, this room is...
How's that?
Wow. That's amazing, just from switching off the plug.
So just out of interest, Peter had this single layer Nova mesh fabric with him, which he had just received. He was not trying to sell it to us, but even if we did want it, it's extremely expensive and you have to order it from overseas, and it's the import taxes you pay are sky high. But this is high-tech fabric that's been designed to protect you from EMF exposure. As you can see, the values are super low with Tara completely covered. And once we remove the fabric, you'll see how the values literally skyrocket. There is a lot of shielding options out there. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, most of them are pretty expensive, and most of the mitigation techniques you can do immediately in your home. Guys, thanks for watching this. I hope it's been interesting for you. If you do want to get a home assessment, reach out to me or Peter, and get your home checked out. It's important. These things are honestly important. I really truly believe that. Anyway, guys, until next time, enjoy, and we'll catch you then.